Hello and welcome to All Villa No Filler, a podcast all about Aston Villa, the world's greatest football team. Villa fought back against those West Ham pretenders in claret and blue to draw 1-1. More on that in a sec. Plus, later, Frankie cooks up another of his spicy questions. But first things first, Frankie, how are you? Once again, Frankie, at the game today.
Oh, I've had an absolutely electric week. Thursday night, went out to Villa Ajax, and honestly, one of my favourite ever nights at Villa Park. Battering a massive name like Ajax 4-0. I know they're not the team involved, but still, come on. 5 years ago, they were 1 minute away from a Champions League final, and we were 1 minute away from losing at Rotherham away, and here we are. We just went and absolutely battered them. I got to hang out with some fantastic people. Luis Miguel Echegaray, a well-loved Aston Villa fan, his partner Jen, and Sam Ty, another regular guest on here. Just brilliant. And then on that night as well, a few people, George, who came up to me and said, "Are you from the All Villa No Filler podcast?"
Frankie.
People are actually listening and watching this podcast. Can you believe it, George?
Incredible. Yeah. Who thought? Who knew? People care about what I think, and particularly people care about what you think, Frankie. Nobody cares what you think.
So I got, yeah. My own parents are like, they cut me off.
Shut up, Frankie. Shut up.
We'll talk about something else. Yeah. That's why my whole life has been like that. My girlfriend's the same. Yeah. Just shut up, mate. Just go in the other room, mate. But yeah, it was it was amazing to just chat to people who clearly have such a love for Villa like we do. And I was in Weatherspoons near New Street Station, and someone came up, and his name was Jason Sterndale. He's from Sheldon. Give him a shout out. And he came up to me and chatted all about Aston Villa for good 15 to 20 minutes, which was just great fun. It was great. And then another lad in Weatherspoon as well chatted to me, and then went to Villa Park, and a lad called Tomo as well, who was like All Villa No Filler like it. So yeah, just amazing. And so that just to have such a brilliant experience of a game, and to have people who say such nice things about the podcast, which it was perfect. And 3 days later, I go to West Ham away. And I thought, George, this game's going to get away from us. But second half, I thought, there's a goal coming here, and we got it. So, it's been a good few days. We got a great win against Ajax, and we got a very solid draw against seventh in the Premier League away from home. Yeah. At the end of the day, that's got to be a good result, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, given our record against West Ham in recent years as well, they've always been a tricky opponent. Like Fulham with Spurs yesterday. Fulham, they're sort of this underestimated, underrated side that you look at them in the table, they're sort of mid-table, and you make the mistake of falling into the trap of thinking, well, they haven't got much to play for, or they're not a top side, but they've got some very good players in their ranks, as do West Ham. I mean, West Ham, they did away with Freiburg 5-0 early this week in a European competition more elite than the eliteness of the Conference League, so which they won last year, of course. So they are a very good side with very good players, and on their day they can hurt anyone, can't they? So to get a point on the road against West Ham was really, really good. I think particularly given how we performed in spells. I think the first half in particular, we just didn't really seem to find any fluidity whatsoever. And to be fair to West Ham and their players, they really got at us. They hemmed us inside our own box basically for much of the first half. We really struggled to find an outlet. Sloppy balls, panic stations, corners conceded, all the rest of it in the first half, which was a real challenge. But I think the substitutions, Frankie, I don't know how you feel about this, but bringing on Cash, who I think was unlucky not to start given his performance against Ajax, came on, and he made a real difference. I know we'll probably talk about that block right at the very end from him. Another block. He did it against Ajax. He did it again today against West Ham. Fantastic from him. And Zaniolo. Fantastic to see him score the goal, and Diaby to set it up. So the substitutions really made a difference, didn't they?
Yeah, it was very interesting when I saw the starting lineup. I was in a pub in. It's quite funny with West Ham, because you think of West Ham as being like East End, the Cray twins, like, a bit of this, bit of that. EastEnders, Cat Slater saying, "You're not my mum, I am your mum." But it's not like that anymore. It's actually hipster central. Hackney Wick near West Ham Stadium is pure hipster central. And their stadium is like hilarious in the sense of just how far away you are from the pitch. No wonder every West Ham friend I have is always like, "I bloody can't stand our stadium, mate. I can't stand it." And yeah, it's you are a long way from the pitch, but look, when you're with the away fans, it's a brilliant feeling. I'm delighted that's not our stadium, but when you're with the
Mm,
away fans, it just makes it just the atmosphere just solves it for you, doesn't it?
yeah,
And
yeah.
yeah, while I was like, the distance between here and the planet of Mars, from the pitch, it was good fun. And yeah, like the starting lineup, I thought Unai Emery had gone attacking. I thought he thought, right, well, we McGinn's out, we might not have the defensive solidity to just kind of withstand a kind of onslaught from West Ham. So, do you know what? Let's just go at them instead, which I think was understandable. And I think the reason he picked Duran was because of how well Duran had played on Thursday night, and
Mm,
he'd been such a menace against Ajax's defense. And I think that was a fair enough shout, but I think the problem today was that when we were dominating the ball largely in the first half, but we were doing nothing with it. So West Ham were creating more chances because they would win it back, and then they'd just do a 1-2, cross it in the area, and Mikel Antonio scores a goal, for instance. But for me, I thought what was happening a lot of the time was that we would keep retain it, and then we'd look forward, and there'd be this massive gap where West Ham would press forward, our midfield would come deep to get the ball, and then you'd have Watkins and Duran just standing miles away up by the halfway line. This huge gap where somebody could run into and collect the ball to link up play, but instead, Duran and Watkins were doing the same thing. They were both waiting for the
mm,
ball up front, which was, that's just a shame because obviously I get it why Emery played them together, but because they've not played together that often this season, but it just didn't quite work. And I think that at half time, when Diaby came on, that link up in between midfield and up front that had not been there in the first half, suddenly it was there. And I
mm,
thought Diaby was fantastic. I think he made a massive difference. I think Clement Longley in the first half, for whatever reason, I think Longley's been playing well recently, but in the first half, he could not pass that ball to save his life.
yeah,
On at least
yeah, yeah.
3 or 4 occasions, he gave the ball away, and eventually, on about the fourth occasion, he gave the ball away. Is what led to the play that led to West Ham scoring their goal. Longley did not have a good game, which again, Emery's working with what he's got. He's working with what with all the injuries, he's seeing what works and what doesn't. Tonight, it just didn't work for Longley, and it didn't work for Duran. But no, Diaby, Cash, those substitutions in the second half made all the difference. And I thought Diaby and Bailey, once again, as they have done on a few occasions this season, have such a fantastic understanding. And in fairness to Cash, I thought he had a really good work. I think he worked well with them again as well today. And it got to such a point that West Ham eventually brought on Ben Johnson to just deal with. It brought a striker off, brought Antonio off to bring
Mm.
Johnson on to deal with Bailey. That's how good Bailey was playing. And yes, I think second half the goal was coming all half. Zaniolo gets it, and again, fair play to Zaniolo. We've been critical of him recently in the sense like I feel like centrally he's not been working very well, whereas I think out wide he's been playing a lot better when he's had that opportunity. I think today, he was out on the left, so he was a little bit wider, but I thought today he looked so much better. He was so confident. The decisions he was making were good. He wasn't dithering on the ball. He was making quick passes. Obviously, he made like one or two silly things where he threw the ball away. Could have been a red, bit immature, bit silly, but brilliant goal, good from him, and I think his all-round play was very good today. So yes, I think the substitutions made the big difference. But George, do you think we could have won that? Do you think that was a game there to be won?
There were, I mean, there were certainly opportunities in the second half. I think obviously once you score a goal, the momentum shifts and it's with you, and there's an opportunity then to try and capitalize on that. I think on the balance of play, if I'm going to be fair, I think a point was a fair result for both sides. It was a kind of classic cliche of a game of two halves where West Ham deserved to be ahead in the first half, and we did well in the second period as well, enough to get a point. And it was a really
Yeah,
good goal from Zaniolo, as you
definitely.
say.
And a
Lead
brilliant
time
ball
run.
a brilliant ball from Tielemans and a brilliant run
Yeah,
from Diaby. It was a great goal all around that. Great
yeah, it
goal.
was. Yeah, look at that great build up to that one. Yeah, and then West Ham might be aggrieved because they had a couple of goals themselves ruled out. I think the one that we need to talk about is obviously the the essentially, one of the final kicks of the game where the ball comes in, another set piece that we sort of struggle to deal with.
Yeah.
And then, as far as I'm concerned, because I watched it back a couple of times now, it's clear as day. Souček handles the ball hits his arm and goes into the back of the net. What?
Blatantly.
Yeah. And he can protest all he likes, but it's there in black and white, isn't it? You can see it. You can see it. It hits his arm and goes
Yeah.
in. But the frustration, we were talking before we started recording this podcast. The frustration amongst West Ham fans certainly, but also Villa fans and football fans generally about VAR is when you watch that back and you see the ball hit his arm, how long it takes for that to be ruled out. I just find it astonishing, and I appreciate they want to be careful. They want to make sure that it's the right decision. And I suppose they can't win either way. in some ways, you sort of feel a little bit for the refs, but it was clear, and it was obvious. So why was the delay there? I don't know.
And why did they need to send him to the screen to watch it? I watched it once after the game, and I thought, well, that's blatantly a handball. Why was that? Why was that a difficult decision? And then in the stands, bearing in mind this went on for like 5 minutes, was a lad next to me who had Twitter, and he said he saw the handball. He went, "Oh, it's definitely a handball. Don't worry, it's fine." And I was like, "What?" This lad next to me has come to this decision within 1 minute or 2 minutes. Pugmoller sat there, probably, cracking open a can of Pinot Noir, having a little wine tasting competition, and then they go, "Oh, mate." Look, I mean, obviously, I think as a podcast, I think we're very fair on referees. That we don't really go after referees on this podcast. We just don't, because I think there's a big danger that it leads to a kind of, firstly, conspiracy theories.
Yeah, massively. Yeah.
But also, secondly, it also leads to kind of a culture of abuse, and we've got to be very careful of that and mindful of the fact that there's a lot of referees who want to come into the game and they don't want to do it because there's a general culture that they're going to get abused, and I don't think we want to encourage that. But I think the point that you could make is that very clearly, tonight you're like, why has it taken so long to make that decision? Like, he didn't need 5. It was clearly a handball. So why have you taken 6-7 minutes for it? And I think that's what leads to so much frustration about VAR and refereeing in general. But also, the Antonio handball earlier as well. I've not actually seen the replay of that, but like I say, because I'm at the opposite end of the stadium, you're so far away. It's like you need bloody the James Webb telescope to see what's going on down the other end. It can look into other dimensions. That bloody telescope, you need it to see that. But
So was Zaniolo's goal towards your end?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, thank God. Yeah. I just about saw it. It was still quite far away. But but yeah, it was.
So were you high up in sort of the stand above the home fans? Because Zaniolo was doing this. I thought,
well, no,
doing it towards the Villa fans, was he?
Interesting. I've seen the replay of that, and it was definitely aimed at the Villa fans. So
really,
he must have listened to the Your Villa No Villa podcast when 1 week I went, "Oh, he's not a central player. He's a wide player," and he clearly listened and he went, know your role, shut your mouth. And I'm like, yeah, all right, I'll know my role and shut my mouth if you're scoring goals like that, mate.
Interesting. We've got another Alpie on our hands. Well, I mean, interesting, isn't it? I suppose he must be aware of the criticism, which I think is in many ways largely unfair. There's been some talk about him struggling with adapting to the Premier League, obviously, which can be hard for any player. We've seen reports of the Italian manager getting in touch with the club and asking why he hasn't played as many minutes as he was hoping he would play, and maybe that's a frustration for Zaniolo as well. But I think he's still got a part to play, Frankie. I really do. I think particularly with suspensions to McGinn and injuries, we're sort of creaking towards the end of the season, where we are going to have to rotate up our starting 11 a bit more than maybe we might want to. But he's certainly got a part to play.
Well, think about it. He's the Sheffield United game where we couldn't score for 97 minutes. He got the goal there.
Goals. Yeah.
Today, it was a fantastic run from deep that he made, and the West Ham defence just didn't pick him up. And Diaby did really well to put it across for him. And again, those 2 points, at the end of the season could be really crucial. And
Absolutely.
in the past that could have led to, it could have been two losses. So yeah, but also first half again, whilst I was at the opposite end of the stadium, and it was very hard to see. In the first half, it looked to me like there was a very blatant handball
Mm.
where Bailey tried to cross it, hit the West Ham player on the hand, and was that a handball? Am I dreaming it, or was
No,
that a
no,
handball?
no. I think it did look like one to me.
Yeah,
But again, it goes back to the inconsistencies of VAR, isn't it?
yeah,
Why are they taking forever over some things and seemingly not bothering to check others? Um, but yeah, no, absolutely. When I watched that back, I thought that absolutely could have been given as a handball. So yeah, it's frustrating. But as I said, I do think a point is a brilliant result, really.
oh yeah. Well, yeah,
To get that sort of late equaliser. There might be some Villa fans frustrated that we didn't push on and get a winner, but I think it's a bit of a you take what you can. It's another point on the board, and you move on
yeah,
to another really difficult game against Wolves at home.
and that,
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, that was the thing. I think like if you think of Villa in the past, all right, we had a horrendous result against Spurs. How often do Villa teams in the past bounce back from results like that and just go and do what we've just done?
absolutely. Yeah, yeah,
We
yeah.
lose 4-0 at home to Spurs, and then we go and beat Ajax, bloody Ajax, 4-0 at home on a big European night. And then we go and get a 1-1 draw at a very difficult place to go away where for the last 10, 11 years, haven't won. We
Yeah.
went there, we went 1-0 down, but instead of caving in, we go and get results. Like this team has such a character. And we're missing McGinn, we're missing Kamara, we're missing Buendia, Mings, so many key players we're missing, and we still find a way of doing it. It's, the credit you have to give to this team to sort of the sort of their ability to just go to a level and find something to get a result. That's
Mm,
very, very the Villa that we have known for a long time. That has to be Unai Emery. It has to be, but also it's got to be on the players reacting to whatever it is that Unai Emery's coaching staff are telling them to do. And
mhm.
I thought second half, I think massive credit to Zaniolo coming on obviously, but Diaby made a massive difference. Just coming deep, being that link up player. Matty Cash, I thought, really did well. And Leon Bailey, I thought Bailey was just, again,
Mm,
unstoppable. And, the fact West Ham had to bring a player on to stop him says it all, doesn't it?
mm.
Bailey genuinely looks like one of the most electric football players on the planet. He is just unbelievable.
Yeah, no, he looks very good. He's really he's come on leaps and bounds this season, hasn't he? Before we move on to the spicy question, Frankie, because I
Oh,
know you're
yeah.
cooking. I know I can smell it. It's cooking. It's
Yeah,
cooking.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
sizzling
yeah.
away in the
Yeah.
background.
Oh, yeah. I've
Uh,
thrown the onions on, thrown the
yeah,
onions on.
sliced up a couple of jalapeno
Cheese
peppers
on.
and chuck
Yeah.
chuck that in.
Oh,
Um, we need to talk about the Conference League draw.
oh, yeah. Yeah.
Obviously, we've got Lille in the quarterfinals, and if we get through that stage, we've got either Olympiacos or Fenerbahce, tricky places to go
Yeah.
in the semi-finals, which is looking at the teams remaining in the competition. I would say is one of the toughest draws you could have picked.
I agree.
I don't know if you do you
Yeah.
feel agree with that? Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, because I think Olympiacos, Fenerbahce, and Lille have a lot more recent European experience than Aston Villa do. It's
yeah.
worth remembering that. European experience. Take Arsenal against Porto. I bet you in the Premier League, Arsenal probably beat Porto relatively, 2-0. Go away to
Mhm.
Porto, probably win, 2-1, something like that. In the Champions League, it's different. There's just
Yeah.
something about those European fixtures, teams you're not familiar with, fans you're not familiar with, away days you're not familiar with, the travel, everything about it. It's a different thing, and it does take a lot of getting used to. And this season is a fantastic experience for us to get used to that again. Like Ajax away, for instance, that's the kind of game in Europe we've not played for a very, very long time. But yeah, like Lille. Look, Lille are doing well in League 1. They're a very good side. They've got some top players. Jonathan David obviously sticks out, the Canadian striker. But at the same time, I still back this Villa team to do something. And I still think Unai Emery is the manager you would want in this kind of scenario. what I would say is if we get through that, Olympiacos away or Fenerbahce away, that's going to be,
As a
again,
second leg as well, Frankie.
yeah, yeah, exactly. It doesn't help us that both games are second legs, like the
Yeah.
semi-finals or the quarterfinals. But again, that's what you got to deal with. And I think Fenerbahce, I mean, I spent a lot of time in Istanbul a few years ago, and it's honestly probably my favorite city in the world. But what I would say is that I was there on the day of Fenerbahce versus Galatasaray, and that was
Was Souness there
yeah, yeah, yeah,
with his flag?
planting the flag in the middle of the Hagia Sophia or something. Yeah, it was. I mean, honestly, Istanbul's the most beautiful city. It's fantastic and just incredible. But yeah, on that match day, it was. Yeah, it was different.
Tasty.
I was sat in a pub. I was probably in a more Galatasaray area. I think Fenerbahce is on the Asian side of Istanbul. I
Hmm.
was on the European side, where I think Galatasaray are. I was very much closer to Besiktas. That was like my local team, I guess. And yeah, I remember looking out a window in a pub and Galatasaray fans surrounding cars and just pushing them back and forth. And I thought, bloody hell, I'm trying to imagine my mom driving back from her grocery shopping and a bunch of Galatasaray fans just surrounding it. And it'd be like Blues fans in Birmingham, like celebrating winning the Autoglass windscreen shield or something, pushing the car back and forth, which they might have to do soon because, I think they're going down, George.
Yeah, possibly. We won't go there though, Frankie. We
No,
won't sully this podcast, of
yeah.
course.
Our rival podcast, no blues, you lose, or something like that. Yeah. All blues, we lose.
All blues we lose. Yeah. Don't tune into them. You know, you don't want to hear that. Yeah. Well, it'll be interesting. Of course, Zaniolo played for Galatasaray, didn't he, last season?
He
So
did.
maybe
He did.
if we do face Fenerbahce, then that's added impetus for him to, get one over the old Istanbul rivals. But yeah, it'll be exciting, as you say, Frankie.
Yeah.
You can only play who you're drawn against, and if we want to win this competition, we have to beat the best teams in it. And I think the ones remaining are the best teams in it because that's why they're there. And we do go in as favourites. And also, as
Yeah.
you say, Frankie, even though we as a club don't have much European experience, I think this is the first time we've been in a European Cup quarter-final since 1998.
Yeah.
The players that play for this club, a lot of them do. Leon
Oh yeah.
Bailey's played there, Diaby's played there, Zaniolo's played in
Emi
Europe,
Martinez
Martinez,
has won a World
obviously,
Cup.
absolutely. So Matty Cash has played for Poland at a World Cup. So we do have players that have played at international level. So that doesn't worry me too much. I think the atmosphere is the thing that will be perhaps the
Yeah.
disarming, maybe.
That's the thing to experience. I think that's something I'm quite keen for these players to get that experience because who knows, we might be in Champions League next season. You never know.
You never know.
I mean, you want that ahead of whatever comes in the future. And but George, as Ric Flair once said, to be the man, you gotta beat the man. Bring him on.
Woo!
But George and I have a long overdue fallout over this, the spicy question. And today, George, I ask you, would you accept winning the Conference League but not getting Champions League football?
Oh, Frankie,
Oh,
I tell you what, this is the spiciest question you've ever asked
oh.
me in the, how many years have we done this podcast? Two,
Two,
two
yeah.
years?
A bit of a
In 2 years, this
a
is,
sizzler.
uh,
Yeah, you've
this
gone
is
to the
really,
you're in the Balti Triangle in
uh,
Birmingham. You found the spiciest ingredients.
I'm in the Baltic Triangle. I've disappeared. I'm in the Baltic Triangle,
Yeah.
Bermuda Triangle, Baltic Triangle. Yeah, this is next level spicy, Frankie. This is this is black bottle Nando's sauce spicy.
Yeah.
Oh God, I'm
Oh,
thinking about it. I'm
I
thinking
know my
about it.
answer. I know
Do
my
you? Oh,
answer.
really? You know it straight
Yeah.
off the bat?
Yeah.
I would say Champions League.
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand. It's such a spicy question, Frankie, that I know that people listening in, if they've stuck with us this far, will strongly disagree with that because I understand like the passionate support of winning a trophy, which we
Well,
haven't won, as we all say.
some people have just thrown their phones in a river. Like
Yeah, I bet.
they're on the way to work tomorrow on the Monday morning commute. Threw their phone out the bus or something.
Yeah, no, I completely, and I apologize. I'm sorry you have to go get a new handset, but like, I just think, in terms of like the money, the prestige, and it's horrible to say, I think it's just the nature of modern
Yeah,
football that the champions, in the past 50, I think perhaps the older listeners might say cup. I know I'm generalizing here,
yeah,
but maybe, but the fact of the matter is the money, the prestige is now, fortunately, whether you like it or not, all in the Champions League. And if we're lucky enough to qualify for the Champions League this season, that means a financial windfall, which
yeah,
means that we might be able to hang on to our better players and not risk selling some of our top quality players.
yeah,
We'll have the prestige of being in the tournament, which means we can attract better players. So in terms of our kind of development and our growth as a football club, qualifying for the Champions League is much more beneficial. But I can
yeah,
totally get on the other side of the coin, having that sort of tangible sort of item of success, which is lifting a physical trophy and having that written down in the annals of our history, and in the record books and bringing it home and all the rest of it. I completely get that. And I want both, Frankie. That's what I want. I want both. But
yeah.
if you're asking me, gun to my head, I am going to say Champions League.
I absolutely think Villa can do both. I definitely think we can. But I agree. I think if it was the Europa League, I'd be a little bit more. I think winning the Europa League would be such a massive thing. I think that'd be like a
Mm.
real because it's hard to win that. And I think if you're winning that, like
You are top side, yeah.
yeah,
You
top
are.
sides
Yeah, yeah.
win that trophy, and I think that would be a massive thing if Villa won that. But Conference League again, it'd be massive for us. I
And
think
also, you'd qualify for the Champions League the following season if you
yeah,
did.
exactly.
That's a
Whereas
no-brainer.
I think
That
yeah,
you do get both with that.
yeah. But yeah, I think Conference League would be, it'd be unbelievable. And I think we can do both. But yeah, if I had to choose between the two, I hate the way in football we have to talk about FFP and PSR and all the revenues. It's just so it's like why is football like this now? But
Mm,
that's a different debate, I guess. That's definitely one big aspect of it. And you kind of think of the players you can attract, the players you might not need to sell, the things it does for your team as a sort of, attractive place to go. Uh, but also like aside from all of the sort of annoying, horrible stuff that you cynically think about, revenues wise and all that, it's more like, you think of like, can you imagine if we went to Real Madrid away?
oh God,
You
yeah,
know what I mean?
I
Can you,
know.
can you imagine like Real Madrid come to play at Villa and you're playing,
It would be,
Mbappe
it would be,
booing Belly
yeah,
off the pitch?
it would be mad, wouldn't it? You hear the Champions League music and the camera pans across, and you've got Bellingham and Mbappe, and then all of a sudden you've got wee John McGinn,
Yeah,
uh, Tyron Mings.
yeah, be.
It would be phenomenal,
And
wouldn't
you
it?
think of where these two players have come from, McGinn and
Yeah.
Mings, given where they started with Villa, to think they would
Mm.
be in a situation like
Yeah,
that.
ludicrous, isn't it? Yeah, it is
Mad.
mental.
And Grealish back on loan, something like that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But yeah, like Bellingham getting booed off the pitch. But no,
Yeah.
it's just the thought, of playing that many games in the Champions League, that music playing there, playing against Barcelona, Real Madrid, away days in, Bayern Munich, wherever. It's mate, like yeah,
Mm.
we'd probably get murdered on a couple of nights, like 3-0 or something. But at the same
Yeah.
time, there'd be a couple of nights where we wouldn't. I think we'd win a few games. And mate, you
Mm.
never know, there'd be a big win at Villa Park against who knows, top team. So no, I think it'd be a statement of Villa are here. This is where we can be, and this is who we are now. And who knows where it could lead to from that. So I think I'd take Champions League over Conference League, but with the caveat that I think we can do both this season.
Yeah. And listeners, if you're still with us, those who spoke to Frankie at Villa Park, let us know
Yeah,
your thoughts. What do you want? Because I do think, Frankie, as I said, this is the spiciest question you've asked.
it's a very spicy question.
If our listeners can handle the spice, please do get in touch and let us know your thoughts.
And please subscribe on Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcasts. If you're on YouTube, follow us on there. All the good stuff. Just follow, subscribe, comment, let us know your thoughts and everything so we can just keep building these relationships.
Absolutely. Good vibes only.